folks, I'm Vasel here, and today we're talking about Passport Games. This is my Best of Publishers series where I talk about different companies. Passport is a company that is kind of an interesting company because they bring over from a lot of different companies from Europe. They bring things over to America, and there's even more that they just bring over and they don't actually put their name on. So it's a little confusing sometimes talking about them. They're almost like a small Asmodee to some degree. But they do have 10 games that I want to talk about. So we're going to start with number 10, Myth. Myth is, if you mispronounce mice, it's a game about mice and you're moving them. But the way you move these mice to get to the golden cheese is by playing cards from other people's hands. So you pull cards from their hands, but you don't want to pull a bad card from other people's hands. And then you take the cards that you pulled and you distribute them to other people. It's actually much more clever than it seems at first. It's an interesting game, Myth. Number 9 is Tokaido, the game of Zen, of peacefulness. Tokaido really is that way. You're moving along a path, going to the end, and you're going to stop at different spots and collect murals and food and different things. You can go as far as you want, but if you go too far, then you will have to wait for everyone else to kind of catch up to you. I like that style of game. They made some very beautiful versions of Tokaido. Back to non-Zen, and we're at Trajan. Trajan is a Stefan Feld game, which is just chock full of nothing when it comes to the theme, but chock full of everything when it comes to getting points. It's the very definition of a point salad. Do stuff on this part of the board, get points. Do stuff on this part of the board, get points. Do stuff over here and get points. Has a little bit of a Mancala movement system. It's a really good game. A little lower on my list because, yeah, it's like dry as a Sahara desert, but it is a really solidly designed game, and many people consider it their favorite games of all time. Number 7 is Quantum. This is a spaceship game in where the dice are your spaceships, and you are moving these dice and attacking other people on the board based on the numbers that are on them and manipulating those numbers. And when you have numbers, they become different types of spaceships with different abilities. It's kind of a mathy game, but don't let that turn you off. You're like, I don't like math. The game is still quite good. Quantum. Number 6 is Castaways. You never heard of Castaways? That's because the game Robinson Crusoe did an elbow drop on it. They came out at the same time, and they're very similar. Castaways, you are stuck on an island. It is a cooperative game. It has kind of a story flavor as you try to get off. It's a beautiful game. There's a few minor things oh, I want to win solo. That's garbage. Just play straight co-op. The game works well. It's not as good as Robinson Crusoe, but it's still pretty good. Castaways. Number 5, Kingsport Festival. I really like Kingsburg, the dice placement game. It's an excellent game. Kingsport is very similar, but it is Cthulhu themed. Now, it takes up way too much table space, and it's, I don't see a reason to own it and Kingsburg, so if you like the Cthulhu theme better, pick it. Has some very scary Cthulhu art in it for sure, but it's still a solid game. Roll dice, try to get the right things, resources, like depression and I forget what they are, but they're not like the fun resources of other games. And summon the ancient gods of Cthulhu. That's Kingsport Festival. Number 4 is CV. Now, CV is a game in which you were living your life by rolling dice, using those dice to get different cards. Those cards give you special abilities, but it kind of lives your life out for you. It's kind of like the game of life in dice. A lot of fun. There's some luck, obviously, rolling the dice, but getting the different cards and getting different combinations and having special abilities to get there. And then also seeing the story of your life is fun, which leads us to number 2. Which leads us to number 2, which is Civilizations, which was a very similar aspect, but it was a civilization game. But this one wasn't about dice. This one's about card play. You play a card, and you were hoping sometimes that more people would play the card, because if you played a card and other people did, it would do better for you. Sometimes the card works well if you're the only person who played it, but gathering resources, and you're slowly building tech and seeing your civilization grow. Both of these games have a little bit of a silliness to them, like Mad Magazine style, but both good games. And my favorite game from Passport Games is Salem. Now, this could be confusing because there are several games out there called Salem, but this is a deduction style game in which you are trying to figure out which people actually are the witches, because we're just accusing them all falsely of being witches. There is a basic and advanced game. The basic game is actually better than the advanced game, in which you are just basically sitting there asking people questions, using a little bit of almost Sudoku style logic to figure out who all the witches are that are in town. Has a very grim looking vibe to it. I thought it looks kind of cool. The whole game pretty neat. That's Salem, one of my favorite deduction games. That, folks, are my 10 favorite games from Passport. Let me know what yours are in the comments below. I just quick making sure I said 10. Anyhow, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. This has been Best of Publishers, Passport Games.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.